On the world map, there is a place that seems like an anomaly of nature. A narrow, cold fissure in the middle of the boundless taiga. But if you come closer, it becomes clear that this is not a lake, but an inland sea, older than the memory of the Earth itself. Lake Baikal, the deepest, the oldest, and the cleanest lake on the planet. Its basin contains about 1/5 of the world's surface freshwater reserves. The water here is so pure that in spring you can see stones at depths of dozens of meters, as if you are looking not into water, but into time. It is approximately 25 million years old. When many mountain ranges were only beginning to form, Baikal already existed. It was born in a gigantic rift in the Earth's crust that is still slowly expanding. The continent is literally pulling apart, forming a depression into which rivers, snow, and rain have flowed for centuries. In winter, the lake freezes, turning into a cosmic landscape. The ice cracks with a thunderous roar, forming turquoise hummocks and bubbles of ancient air frozen in the transparent depths. It feels as if the planet itself is speaking, and everyone who comes here senses it. Baikal is alive. Baikal is located in the southern part of eastern Siberia. Its length is 636 kilometers, almost equal to the distance between Europe's largest capitals. Its width reaches 80 kilometers, and its maximum depth is 1,642 meters, a world record among lakes. If all the rivers on the planet stopped feeding Baikal, humanity would need a century to drain it. More than 300 rivers and streams flow into the lake, but only the majestic Angara River flows out. It carries Baikal's waters into the Yenisei River and then to the Arctic Ocean. The shores of Baikal are diverse. In some places, there are sandy bays and open steppe landscapes. In others, sheer cliffs descend into the abyss. To the west rises the Primorsky Range, and to the east, the Barguzin Range. In the center lies Olkhon Island, the spiritual heart of the region, a place of power, shamanic legends, and harsh beauty. Here it is easy to lose your sense of scale. The mountains reflect in the water, the sky seems endless, and a human being feels like only a fleeting moment. A world that exists nowhere else. Baikal is more than just a lake. It is a gigantic laboratory of evolution, a natural experiment spanning millions of years. It is approximately 25 million years old, and during this time, a unique system of life has developed here, unlike any other on the planet. More than 60% of the living organisms in Baikal are endemic. This means they cannot be found anywhere else on Earth. They originated, evolved, and adapted precisely here, in the cold, deep, and incredibly pure water. The lake's isolation and antiquity have made Baikal a unique island within the continent, a world following its own evolutionary path. The symbol of the lake is the Baikal seal, the only freshwater seal in the world. This small creature with large, dark eyes seems almost fairy tale-like. How its ancestors ended up in central Siberia remains a scientific mystery. One theory suggests that thousands of years ago, ancient seals may have migrated here from the Arctic through river systems and ancient waterways during glacial periods. The seal has perfectly adapted to life under the ice. It can break through ice and remain underwater for up to 70 minutes without surfacing. Another remarkable creature, the golomyanka, inhabits the depths of Lake Baikal. This translucent fish seems to be made of light and water. Its body consists almost entirely of fat, up to 30 to 40%, which allows it to withstand colossal pressure at depths of more than 1,000 meters. It has no swim bladder, yet it moves freely through the water column. The golomyanka is a live-bearing fish, an extremely rare phenomenon for cold depths. After birth, The young often perish, becoming part of Baikal's complex food chain. But perhaps the most important role is played by the most inconspicuous inhabitants of the lake, microscopic crustaceans called episcura. These tiny filter feeders daily purify enormous volumes of water. They consume microalgae and organic particles, maintaining the crystal clarity of Baikal's waters. Thanks to their work, the lake remains one of the cleanest on the planet. Without them, the ecosystem would change dramatically. The water would lose its transparency, and the biological balance would be disrupted. The shores of Baikal are a world in themselves. Larches, cedars, pines, rare grasses, and medicinal plants grow here. The taiga almost reaches the very water's edge. In autumn, the forests turn golden and burgundy, and in winter they transform into an endless snowy kingdom. Here one can encounter brown bears, lynxes, sables, and roe deer. The white-tailed eagle, a majestic bird with a wingspan of more than 2 meters, soars in the sky. In spring, the air fills with the sounds of migratory birds returning to their nests. The lake becomes a lively crossroads of migration routes. Underwater, in the depths and along the shores, life thrives everywhere, adapted to the harsh conditions of Siberia. Every species here is the result of nature's long and delicate work. Baikal is more than just an ecosystem. It is a separate universe, a world that exists nowhere else. For the indigenous peoples, Baikal was never just a body of water. It was a living being, ancient and powerful, not a geographical object, but an entity with character, will, and memory. The Buryats call it Baikal Dale, the sacred sea. In their understanding, it is not merely water, but the breath of the earth, the mirror of the sky, a place where the human and spiritual worlds meet. Since ancient times, rituals with sacrifices and offerings of milk, tea, fabric ribbons, and tobacco were performed here. Colorful kadags, ribbons tied as a sign of respect, can still be seen on coastal rocks and trees. Shamans held a special place in the spiritual tradition. They were considered intermediaries between people and the forces of Baikal. A shaman did not simply pray, he entered into dialogue with the lake. During rituals, they played drums, lit fires, and recited ancient incantations. It was believed that the spirit of Baikal could grant luck in hunting and fishing, protect from illness, or, conversely, punish for disrespect. The wind, the waves, sudden fog, all were perceived as manifestations of its will. If the Sama, one of Baikal's most dangerous winds, arose, people said that the master of the lake was angry. If the water was calm and clear, it meant the spirits were benevolent. Olkhon Island is considered a special center of power. It is the heart of Lake Baikal, a place where, according to belief, the boundary between worlds is especially thin. Here stands the Shaman Rock, one of the 9 sacred sites of Asia, also known as Cape Burkan. Since ancient times, women and outsiders were forbidden to approach it without a shaman's permission. According to legend, the Lord Spirit of the island dwelled in the cave of the rock. Important rituals were held here, and fate-determining decisions for tribes were made. Even today, despite the influx of tourists, many locals treat this place with reverence. They do not shout at the rock, do not litter, and do not disturb the silence, because Baikal is a sacred place, not a place for entertainment. Russian pioneers came to Baikal in the 15th century. They were Cossacks, explorers, and military leaders sent to develop and study the eastern lands. Their path lay through the endless taiga, swamps, and mountain passes. When they first saw Baikal, they saw not a lake, but an endless water surface stretching beyond the horizon. For residents of European Russia, the scale was overwhelming. They did not expect to see a sea in the middle of the continent. In documents of that time, Baikal was often called a sea. Its storms truly resembled maritime ones. Waves rose several meters high, and the wind would suddenly intensify, overturning boats. The Russians quickly understood that Baikal could provide sustenance, but it did not forgive carelessness. Fish, omul, whitefish, and grayling became essential sources of food. The water was pure, drinkable without treatment. The surrounding forests were rich in fur-bearing animals, sables, foxes, and squirrels. Thus began a new era, the era of interaction between humans and the Great Lake. Over time, winter huts appeared along the shores, then fortresses, and later villages and towns. Eventually, the Trans-Siberian Railway passed through these lands, and at the beginning of the 20th century, the Circum-Baikal Railway was built. Its construction was an engineering feat. Tunnels were carved into cliffs, bridges were erected over chasms. It seemed as if humanity was trying to tame the elements, to inscribe its own line into the ancient landscape. Today, villages and towns stand along the shores of Baikal, ports operate, and railways run beside them. Millions of tourists come here every year to see the transparent ice in winter, hear the cracking of frozen water, and feel the immensity of space. Yet the sense of the sacred has not disappeared. Even modern people, far removed from shamanic rituals, feel something profound here, a special atmosphere. The silence seems deeper than anywhere else. The space feels wider, time slows down. Baikal still dictates its own rules. It can be gentle and mirror calm, or within minutes summon a storm. It welcomes people, but never allows them to forget who is in charge. The sacred water remains sacred, and beside it, a human being is merely a guest. Scientists from all over the world come here to look into the past and the future. Sediment layers at the bottom of the lake preserve a climatic chronicle spanning millions of years. By studying them, researchers understand how the planet has changed and what awaits it ahead. Deep water submersibles have descended into the abyss, discovering unknown life forms, gas hydrates, and signs of tectonic activity. Baikal continues to expand. Perhaps in millions of years, a new ocean will appear here. But there is also concern. Climate change, pollution, the growth of tourism, all of this affects the fragile balance. In recent years, scientists have recorded algal blooms in places where the water was once perfectly pure. Will humanity be able to preserve this ancient sea? The answer depends on us. Those who have ever seen Baikal rarely speak of it calmly. They remember the color of the water, the scent of the wind, the endless stars above the night ice. Time flows differently here. Phones lose their meaning. A person remains alone with the scale of the planet. And in that silence, it suddenly becomes clear. Baikal is a reminder of how ancient the world is, how fragile life is, and that beauty requires care, not conquest. When the camera fades and the expedition leaves, the lake remains, breathing beneath the ice, whispering with its waves, preserving stories we are only beginning to understand. Baikal does not need humanity, but humanity desperately needs Baikal.